Welcome back to Me, I Am a Memoir, the meaning of Mariah Carey. Thank God we are out of that regular verse, because that was a difficult time for all involved. I'm still sore from having to listen to Buy Low. Or what was it? What was that song called?
Nobody knows.
From the music of the
song about
she
the
had the big
shopping chain.
microphone. Yeah.
Yes.
Not my favourite.
You've retained.
Anyway.
I'm feeling a little. I'm retaining some J-Lo at the moment. Like, a little bloated.
Yeah, like when I get on the scales, I'm like, well, at least 10 kilos of this is the last 2 weeks' podcast, so I'm very thin now.
Yeah.
Just retained a lot of loud.
Yeah.
She said, let's get loud. I thought she said, let's get to 100 pounds.
If you were 100 pounds, you'd be in trouble, but okay.
I know. No, 100 pounds more.
Right. Yes.
I don't know what pounds are. It rhymed with
small.
Loud. That was the only reason I went with it.
Let's get pound. Wait, that sounds like a different thing.
That sounds like a very different song. Anyway, we're back
already
in
lost
Mariah
it before
world.
we started recording.
I know, that happens every week. So we're back in Mariah world, and we're doing a countdown this week, I believe, which is exciting.
Yes.
But before we get into any kind of down counting, because it's a personal
Math.
countdown, maths. Although I'll probably have 3 number 10s and no 4s. Before we get into the counting, we should check in on the life of Mimi in the Mimi moments.
Mimi moments. Okay, so Mimi has been, of course, she was busy in Capri and all of that. We've touched on this, but there's just a little something happening, a little whisper, thanks to the anniversary of Honey, the 25th anniversary.
Oh, yes. Celebrated by Vogue, of all people.
Mariah has thrown out there that there's a little bit of Butterfly 25 on the horizon.
What?
So now it's time for the speculation. We'll speculate all over everyone's faces.
Oh, get your speculums out and we'll speculate with them.
It's, the gist, if you will. I'm wondering, have we done a full Butterfly Lounge moment for the entirety of Butterfly? That's my guess.
Butterfly Lounge.
Yes.
She's taking a leaf out of this podcast book by having the title in there twice, isn't she? She's going to go the Butterfly Lounge, Butterfly
25.
25, Butterfly 25, the Butterfly Lounge version. Because she did, the roof is from Butterfly.
This is why I got to thinking.
With Brandy from...
Do you think that there was weeks of that hell for Brandy?
No, not just Brandy.
They finished this and then they're like, we're going to do the whole album and bonus tracks.
Brandy's
and the beautiful ones will go for 48 hours. The violinist. That was...
If she wants me to hate it the way you hate the beautiful ones, she could get Nick Cannon in to help.
God.
As if they're even speaking. It's called co-parenting. I love when she says that, which just means my ex-husband lets my children have phones.
And that's a no-no.
It's a no-no.
That's why I do my math on my hand, because phones are no-nos.
Phones are no-nos. But maybe that was part of it. Like,
that's what I'm thinking. Like, or it could just be like a nice reissue, maybe with some demos or some deep cuts, or a nice colourful vinyl.
If that Brandy thing is like there's just the tip of the iceberg,
right?
Yeah. Who else do you think she would have gotten in? Like, who could she have?
Got to bring in Snoop, obviously.
Snoop.
The Butterfly Lounge.
Yes,
probably
would love the
Cisco.
Butterfly Lounge.
Cisco's back to do some more screaming.
Oh no, I reckon she'd get someone new to sing over Cisco's bits.
Maybe she's just gone and dug it out of Prince's vault and stapled him on there. And then
So, yes, I'm excited about the potential of a Butterfly Lounge. I just hope we hear more of the guest artists than we did of poor Brandy.
I know.
Like, if you put that much brandy in a Christmas cake, you'd still be okay to drive.
Yes, absolutely. And what's really funny is going and listening to a lot of the albums again for this countdown, going back to the original Roof and going, the backgrounds are kind of the same. So Mariah could do all of that without brandy. So why?
Yeah.
Why?
Just because she wanted a bit of brandy flavour. She wanted a violin and a bit of brandy. And that's it. The song was almost perfect. It just needed a violin and a splash of brandy.
But
just a really tiny,
like down in the mix, so you don't actually hear it. Like she just wanted to know that it was there. Like she didn't want you to actually hear it.
Yeah.
So.
Basically, I think her idea was, if I can sing over brandy, I'm still amazing. And that's that. That's my album.
Yeah. It was just a huge power play.
I mean, who knows? Like, maybe we didn't hear a final mix. Maybe there's another mix which has got a bit more brandy in it.
I'm sure that that's definitely happening. If anything, I think that version will have less brandy in it. Like, this is too much brandy.
Dedicated to brandy.
Yeah, and that
may not have actual brandy in it.
Yeah. May contain traces of brandy, but probably not.
Oh, brandy.
All right, but yes, we should get into breaking on
down.
Did
Brandy sing the verses? Like in that video, she was singing the verses.
What was she though?
But
I don't know.
Maybe they didn't press record. Poor Brandy.
Yeah. Or Mariah just said, "You have like mouth it, and then I'll go in and loop it later." And so Mariah just put her own voice in because she really didn't want to pay Brandy. She wanted to pay her as an extra, not as a speaking role. A la Kylie on the last episode of Neighbours. Just an extra. Sorry?
Did she not speak in the last one?
She had about 5 words, and it was obvious. It was obvious that it was a contractual thing. I dare say because maybe union or like some kind of might have cost too much. So it's like, we'll just pay you for 5 words. And you're essentially an extra. Whereas Jadon got all the words, heaps of words, because he's
maybe they just they didn't have any time with her to rehearse, so they were like, we'll give her less to do.
Maybe
because she's just turning up for the day.
She just
I mean, she had heaps of lines in Doctor Who. Like,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I think it might be. No, I think it might have been
she's been pretending to like her sister all this time. It's not like she can't act.
Oh my God. Stop. All right. Shall we get to the countdown?
Shall we? Let's break it on down.
Before this episode goes for as long as Neighbours' entire series.
Let's break on down the countdown.
Break me on down.
All right. So what we're going to do, we're counting down from our favourite to our even more favourite.
Yeah.
We've got 15 albums. We haven't included MTV Unplugged or number ones, things like that, because most of those songs do belong to an album somewhere. So if any of those versions come up on an album, you can say, I like this version a bit better, but, generally speaking, it lives on that album.
If Almost Home was an album, it would be number 1.
Absolutely. I should have done that. What am I doing? So we'll take it in turns. And what's going to happen is...
not the song
the full experience. It's a video album.
The full experience. The whole album of just the video. Like one of those Beyonce visual albums.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. We need Mariah to do this. So just so I can push and upsize it.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, we'll take it in turns. I don't even know who's starting where, but what's going to happen is if, let's say, Fab's number 13 album is my number 7 album, I won't talk all over you as you're explaining why it's your number 13.
Yeah, I might throw in all over you.
You definitely talk all over me. I might throw in, I'll do some Kylie acting and just nod.
Some Kylie acting.
But then when it gets
I didn't turn up to the rehearsal, you're correct.
No, there was no script. Like this
I did not make
fault.
any preparations. Okay.
I curled my hair, so it's Charlene. I'm wearing Prada overalls, so come on.
She wasn't.
She was wearing overalls.
Of course she was.
And then when the second person mentions that album, that's when we can sort of compare specifically
Yeah,
as to
I
why
see.
someone made a bad decision. But so before we get in though, I am curious, how did you find ranking these? Was it difficult?
It was really difficult because I just wanted them all to be number one. Because I'm like, oh, well, that's my favorite. Oh, that's also my favorite. Oh, this is equally my favorite. And I'm like, well, and then I listened to them and I'm like, oh, well, that needs to be my favorite because of that. And maybe that's my favorite because of this. And but they're all my favorite. It was really, it was hard.
Well, I mean, that's why it's a countdown from best to best to better, but best.
To best to even better. Yeah.
Yeah. To infinity. I agree. I sort of went in and I thought I knew what I knew, and I'd go back and listen again and go, oh, hang on. I've even introduced a few new songs into infinity in this process. I know. So I'll touch on those.
Re-infinitized songs.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So what I actually ended up doing was going to my original scores and sort of
See, I haven't done that. I've done it from the gut. So people will be like, "You hated this album when you played it." I'm like, "I like it now. Calm down."
Yeah, it's my favorite. I feel like it'll be the same for me because I've gone through and I've taken my initial thoughts, re-listened, rejigged a few things. I've then looked at things like how many infinities does this album have? How many maybe skips? I mean, obviously I wouldn't skip anything, but how many? How many would I consider before realizing, no, you're an idiot, don't skip that?
Yeah.
And sort of the in-between tracks as well. It's like I ended up getting right into percentages. What are the percentage of this album that I would instantly go to?
That's maths.
It was because I didn't know how else to do it. It had to be that.
I know because you're
emotionally it was like
incredibly anal, which is ironic given how
given how
your personal life.
But no, I was like,
if someone tried, you'd be like,
how dare you? So yeah, I did. I had to get scientific, and then at the very end, when everything kind of sat into place, I looked at my gut, just directly at my gut, and was like, "What do you think?" And then there was a couple of last minute shifts.
And then there was a whole 10 nuggets for $10 moment that completely derailed you. And then what do you think?
So Nuggets are my number one Mariah Carey album, as it turns out. All right, so let's start.
KFC Christmas in July that weirdly started in August.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start. I will let you go first with your number 15. First. Yeah, why not? With your number 15 best Mariah Carey album. Remember to go backwards.
Going backwards. All right. Well, number 15, it was difficult for me to choose a number 15.
Yes.
Because I liked a lot of things about both of my number 14 and number 15. But I finally put this one down at number 15 because of the really long period of time where all the songs were boring and there was too much Nick Cannon. So it's Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel.
Ooh. And tell us more.
Well, it doesn't seem that long ago that we did it because it wasn't. But just there's that run of four songs. Is it I Hate You? Is that the one?
Yes.
That drives me mad. But yeah, which I wanted to love. I remember loving the lyrics on all of the songs. But it just kind of, it was just sort of a blandness to that. There was a big chunk in the middle. And then it kind of picks up towards the end. The cover's not great.
That's the main issue is the graphic design.
No, I don't mean the cover, the song cover.
The cover of the song cover. Yes, right. Yes.
Oh, no, I love the cover of all the albums. Yeah, it was the one that I think had the most negatives for me in listening to it again now, in our recent, because I've been taking it from us listening to it recently. And while I discovered more joy in the lyrics, I just found the music a little bit meh. And also I think part of what's poisoned it for me is the thought of the Angel's Advocate album that we never got.
Yes.
I feel like that is the main detractor because it felt like the basis of an amazing remix album that never happened. And it's like they're, and as we discovered, when we listen to the songs that exist from that, they are better and more fun and they're, a bit more lively. Yeah. Apart from, Old Mate Problematic coming in on the first track. But Mary J. Blige and just and imagining Mariah and Kanye having an ego off in the studio, like that just is amazing.
I love that our version is so amazing in our head.
I know, it's incredible. Alicia Keys, like she was meant to be there. So yeah, I think that's also part of it. Like it just kind of had a flat section early on, and too early on. Like you want a flat section down the back end of an album. You don't want it to be like songs
track
2
3
through
or
6.
something. Yes, yeah.
So yeah, it's not my favorite.
Fair enough.
Sadly,
but it's
amazing.
Still your favorite. It's still your 15th
It's still,
favorite.
like it has some amazing songs on it. But yeah, just not enough of them, I think, is the problem.
Yeah.
This is like Mariah's done this to herself, having too many great songs on an album.
Exactly.
That's
spoiling us.
She makes one where it doesn't have enough great songs. And we're like, well, that's going to have to go to the bottom of the list.
Yeah,
I'm afraid.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for my number 15?
Go. What's your number 15?
Now, this, similar to you, like it was hard. There was a couple sort of towards the top and towards the bottom where I was like, ooh, any could swap around, just a light breeze could come past, a la Almost Home, and I would change my mind. But this one I decided because two main reasons. One is, for me, no infinities, but also it was very long. I mean, I don't love long albums.
I know you don't love long albums. You don't like a long song.
Don't like a long song.
And you don't like a long anything. I mean,
no,
this
exactly.
Is why you're not a bottom.
I mean, we love girthy. Girthy Brat is all the rage. We love girthy Brat. But the thing about this was long in the album and the tracks. It had a lot of songs, and then even it had a lot of bonus tracks, which we didn't really count, but just the whole experience just kind of killed me. And that is Charm Bracelet.
Oh, poor Charm Bracelet.
Poor Charm Bracelet. I really didn't think that it would be last.
Well, can I tell you something? If we did this before we did this big re-listen of all of them, if you had asked me before we started this podcast, what are your top 15 albums?
Yeah.
I would probably have put Glitter down here at the bottom.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because there's one or two songs on there that I liked from before. But during this re-listen, I'm like, you're like, you can't be in here.
And you've also had a bit of healing from that time.
Yes.
In Mariah's life.
Yeah, we had the stories from the book about glitter. Like it was a whole chapter, like a whole quarter of the book was about glitter. Yeah. But more than just that, just like listening to it and enjoying it and going, this album has stood the test of time. Whereas, and that's I think what was my problem with Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel is so much of it sounded like it was trying to be of the time that it came out.
Yes, sure.
And I think that's probably where, like, does that feel like the same for Charm Bracelet? Like, it's just a lot of songs. A little bit.
I wanna like it more because I know that this was a little bit of an initial comeback from Mariah, just stepping back out. But I think knowing what happened next, this just kind of gets overshadowed. And I think it's just sort of, I think it works well as an album altogether. Like, you can't say it's all over the place because it's not really. It sits together, but it just goes for a long time and it's sort of all mid-tempo and I just don't really remember a lot of it. The songs that I've written that I would go back to, Through the Rain, Sunflowers, Subtle Invitation, Boy, all great. Pop them on a playlist. But everything else aren't necessarily skips, but just kind of fine. Like,
do you know what's hilarious? Is I was driving my car the other day and Subtle Invitation came on and I was like, I remember really liking this song. And I was like, I cannot remember what album it's from.
Which album? Which one, sorry?
Subtle Invitation.
Yes.
Just came on. I was like, I love this. I cannot remember what album it's from.
Yeah, because it's track 39 on Charm Bracelet.
It's a really, like, I think it's a bit upside down for an album. Like there's, the same with Memoirs. Like it feels like it's going somewhere and then it goes somewhere else and it's,
And I think this one also had, I remember when we did it, I was struggling to find new things to say. Because it was this next song is the same as that song. Great.
It's another one of these.
Yeah, and I remember the bonus tracks were probably the worst of the career.
You can't factor the bonus tracks in because they weren't. No,
but just the overall experience.
Yes, it was a very long record. Was that 3 episodes?
I think it was. And that was just side A.
I think we're still talking about it in some reality.
All right. But yes, that is my number 15. So let's go to your number 14.
Well, this was almost in the bottom spot, and the only thing that saved it was some fierce up-tempo numbers that I absolutely adore. But otherwise, there was, again, a little too much of the same sounding thing and nothing new, nothing interesting. It's Me, I Am Mariah, the elusive Chanteuse.
My goodness. If it had Almost Home on it, it would be number 1.
Oh, it would. And Triumphant, which I adored.
Yeah.
Like Meteorite saves it from the bottom spot.
Oh, gotcha.
And Cry, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like the One More Try, no. You know how I feel about it. It's not okay.
It's your Beautiful Ones.
Yeah, it's not. Beautiful Ones is amazing.
I know, but that's your Beautiful Ones. Like for me, it's Beautiful Ones. For you, it's One More Try.
Yeah, it's One More Try. It's the cover that dare not speak today. But yeah, because it was trying something a little different and a little more interesting was the only thing that kind of edged it above.
Yes.
Memoirs was like Meteorite. Just remember the joy we had when we discovered Meteorite, and we're like, oh, what is this? Mariah's having a ball.
It's almost as if you merge the two albums together, you'd have one really great Mariah album.
Yeah, you would. Or I mean, look, if Angel's Advocate had come out, like that would have been probably be higher than either of these two.
Yes.
But yeah, Beautiful, I still enjoy. But yeah, there's a lot of songs on there that you're like, oh yeah, this one.
Yeah.
And that's about all you can say about it. It's not like, this song reminds me of this and it's really indicative of a time in my life where something was happening and blah, blah, blah. Like, and maybe because the album's not that old, realistically. Like, what is it? Like
2014,
10 years
I
old?
think.
Yeah.
So 8 years old.
Maybe it's too recent. Maybe like Glitter, one day I'll go back to it and go, this is a work of genius.
Yeah, what was I doing?
What was I thinking?
And that's the beauty of a discography like this. You do go back and discover something later and go, why didn't I love that?
Yeah. But I think again, trying too hard to be of the moment and trying too many songs, like the Stripper song, which was not,
Is that thirsty?
Yeah. Which I loved when it came out and I still really enjoy, but it just feels like it's trying to be someone else's song and not a Mariah song. So this, there's a few things on the elusive Chanteuse that feel like they're not the Mariah that I love. And she may disagree with me, and I'm sure she will.
Yeah. And I think we have to say it's probably the best album title.
It is an amazing, it is an amazing title for an album. Like it's incredible. And the artwork is amazing.
Yes, I love the artwork.
And the cover is great. Not the cover of a song, but the cover of the album.
The album, yeah, it's great. Perfect. We got there.
So what's your number 14?
All right. This was interesting because I think going into it, I thought I would have put this higher. But then again, going back and listening and having the full picture, I suddenly kind of realized that she's done this and then this is the other one.
Yeah.
And so this is Merry Christmas to You.
Merry Christmas to you.
The way I went into it, I was like, Merry Christmas 3U.
3U.
So I went into it again going, oh Santa, we've got Oh Holy Night live. We've got When Christmas Comes, Here Comes Santa Claus, right down Santa Claus Lane. Like these are ones I love.
I would love Santa Claus to come down my lane.
Right. So I was like, oh no, I love it. And then, but actually breaking it down, I was like, oh no, what I love is to add these songs to the other Christmas album.
Yes.
And sort of as I started looking at it and sort of not picking it apart on purpose, but I was like, well, Oh Holy Night's on the other one. They're both good.
Yeah.
But that's all I Want for Christmas is on the other one too.
Yes.
And I think maybe what happened is she's like, I'm just going to pop out a few more Christmas songs. Oh, Santa came up, When Christmas Comes. And then someone said, that's almost the whole album. We've got a live version. We'll make some extra bells on All I Want for Christmas.
What's your mum doing?
Songs. What's your mum doing? Get her out of the home and we'll pop her on a cover.
Get Picky Patricia down here to belt out a couple of high notes and you can sing over them real loud.
Yeah. And then, we threw in a couple other bits that, they were, One Child, Charlie Brown Christmas, that's all fine. But I think there's songs I like better on.
Old Lang Syne disco mix is a mistake.
So I actually wrote, for the ones that maybe I would consider possibly skipping, is Old Lang Syne. I've written, it's amazing but terrible.
Yes. And video clip. Remember the video clip?
Insane. Like, absolutely. And I'm not a huge fan of the medleys. Like I don't mind the one with their mum, but the old Oh Little Town of Bethlehem, Drummer Boy, and First Noel, Born is the King are just not my favorite, especially Israel instead of Israel. I was like, what?
No, that's how you say it.
Israel.
Yeah. Israel.
So it was sort of like, you know what? As I was going, I was like, oh, it's just a really long single. It's a really long single for Oh Santa. So it just didn't quite hold together like pretty much every other album. Even Charm Bracelet, I think, holds together as an album a bit stronger.
Yeah.
I just put this one above it because at least there are some songs and I'm like, oh, yes, and go back to.
Also, I mean, for me, that album it's in the era of Imperfect Angel and Lucy Chanteuse, and it's in that kind of, it's in the Nick Cannon stage, and I just, I'm the same with this album. Like, I love a Mariah Carey Christmas album, and I love any Mariah Carey attempt at doing anything vaguely Christmassy. As when we watched we did our live version of the Christmas special, the Apple Plus, amazing. But yeah, there's just like, again, I think it feels like it's. You know what's amazing about her first Christmas album is that it feels timeless. This one, again, like Elusive Chanteuse and Imperfect Angel, feels like it's trying to be of the time. It's trying to chart with a couple of numbers.
Yeah.
And it's just, it just doesn't feel like it's her. Like, I don't know. Like, like when she gets into the full orchestral stuff, like those couple of songs she does with Mark Shaman, with the gorgeous big numbers, it's like, oh, here we are, we're back here, but there's not enough of it. Like, if it was more, if we had more of her and her mum singing proper carols, but there's just too much trying to be, look, I'm up with the kids, I'm young and funky, look at me. Sure, I'm having kids myself right now, but I'm young and funky.
Yes.
But yeah, it's not. Yeah, it just feels like you had an amazing Christmas album once, and this one just feels like a pale imitation.
It's a little bit cobbled together, I feel.
Yes. So I know it feels weird me just piggybacking on to you, but that's because it's my number 13.
Is your number 13? Yes. And it's also, I think this would have worked really well as a disc 2 reissue of the original Christmas album, to be like, now it's super deluxe. I know she's kind of done that. But going, oh my God, there's a whole new disc, and there's some remixes, that's a live track, and a few great new songs. Yeah. Awesome.
If it had been Mariah Carey, Merry Christmas, the deluxe edition.
Yeah, and this is just a reminder of how great the album is.
Yeah. That would have been perfect. I think you're right.
And a celebration of it. Yeah. Rather than it trying to be its own thing. So there you go. So number 13.
That was my number 13.
All right.
Folded it all into one.
So I'll smash on to my number 13. Poor unlucky number 13, if you will. Now, this is actually probably the album I expected to be last. But going back, I was like, oh no, there is some good stuff on here. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be much, much higher. But once I kept going, it all sort of fell into place. And that is Emotions.
I am surprised Emotions made it this high for you,
right?
Because remember, you hated it.
The reason, I think, I struggled with the replay value, I suppose. Yeah, because I think this album, as many second albums of the time, they're like, quick, your first album did well, let's throw out a second one. And because what's the last track on the debut again? The single. I'm thinking of Can't Let Go, but it's not. It's the other one. Love Takes Time.
Love Takes Time.
So Love Takes Time,
which was almost this album. Yeah.
Yes, was written for this, and then they kind of slammed it onto the debut, and then obviously they're like, oh, now we need to start again on this, like, quick. Yeah. And Emotions, Can't Let Go, Make It Happen. Like the singles, I really enjoy of this. Yes. Pretty much all the other songs, I also, they're sort of in the middle for me. I don't dislike them. but I just don't find myself really grabbing onto any of them either.
Yeah.
And, you know, You're So Cold, which we know Mariah doesn't know anymore.
Yeah.
It's punchy and memorable.
It's fun.
But,
It's a fun song.
I feel like, well, then I'll just go listen to Someday or Prisoner, if that makes sense. They're sort of twins, right? Prisoner is the number one song. It's twins. This album feels sort of like they're all siblings to the first album, but just maybe that's the second child. It's just not as good.
Yeah.
So
it's the Jan Brady.
It is. And, you know, when you've got something like If It's Over, which we've touched on being Carol, and being better live, obviously, but you just think, oh, this is going to be great, and then it's just not.
Yeah,
like it's not.
It's
awful.
fine.
It's just, but it's not great, and you're like, damn. And I think for me, even the great songs, there was sort of, you know, Emotions, great song, but it didn't quite hit infinity for me. I think it was Infinity Light, like it was the whisper of infinity, rather than punching right on through. So yeah, but like you said, like I didn't think it would get up to even this part. So good for you, Emotions.
Good for you, Emotions. It made
it
into the unlucky 30.
Yes. I should also say it actually scored scientifically. It scored lower than Merry Christmas, but that's because Merry Christmas to you. That's because Christmas is festive.
From Christmas is festive. It always
but I
gives
just felt
just a couple of bonuses.
Exactly. As an album, I thought this was overall better. All right. So what is your number 12?
Well, no, my number 12 is your least favourite, the Charm Bracelet.
Yes.
Which I remember enjoying when it came out because it was new Mariah. It's like, oh, Mariah's back.
Yeah.
But, you know, I found the production on it, listening to it again now, I found the production on it a little bit thin and reedy, like... You know, wanting a fuller sound for Through the Rain, which sounds like it's just some guy on a Casio banging on with a couple of, you know.
It was Morris, the cat.
He's got some, he's pressed the string button, and so that'll do. Especially because coming on the back of, you know, it was released after Glitter, which had some ridiculous orchestrations for the ballads. Like, you know, Never Too Far is a big, lush song.
Yeah. And I think you said... it had some of the best production for her voice on that album as well.
Yeah. But and I wanted like that big lush sound for Through the Rain, for the album opener, for the first single. And it's, you know, she sounds great. And the remix is hilarious. It's wonderful. You know, there was a time back then when people would release a ballad and it wouldn't really chart, but like there would be dance floor fillers. You're like, I've never heard this Whitney Houston song, but I love it. And then like the other day, I don't know if I retweeted Diane Warren's favourite song that she ever wrote was the Whitney Houston song I Learned From the Best, which around the time of J-Lo being in all the clubs, that dance mix was out, and
amazing.
It was a floor filler because... A key change is great for a dance song because you can like it was amazing.
The power.
As was Through the Rain. Like it was a banger. Like which normally she wouldn't do a dance mix of one of her ballads, Mariah, because it's like, nah, why would she? But that one was like, nah, go for it. Listen to it. Through the rain. But yeah, the rest of the album was, you know, kind of okay, but again, kind of a bit cutesy in places, a bit too kind of cloying, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. And weirdly, the only other song that I absolutely love on Charm Bracelet would have to be Bringing On the Heartbreak. See,
that was a great disappointment for me.
You hated that, but I loved it.
I didn't hate it. I think I could have been so much better.
Yeah.
I think it should have been rockier. Like, go there, Mariah, because the vocal was good. It's a decent song. But tell me you're in a stadium, Mariah. Like, prove it.
But yeah, I feel the same as you. It's you wanted more from it, and I guess it's that thing. Like she had been battered after the whole Glitter experience, and you know she's putting the pieces back together, and you know there were some amazing albums about to come. So it's a little blip. I didn't hate it as much as you did.
It's even funny. I don't think of it in that way. Like, I don't look at it and go, oh God, I hate this. It's a funny feeling.
It's just too
sort of
long.
Like,
there's too many songs.
It's just like, oh, not you today. You're a sometime friend.
And not all of you. Maybe just selected tracks.
Yeah, I'm just going to edit down. Which brings me to my number 12, which is ironically your least favorite. So we did a little swap.
La Memoir.
So I've done Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel. Now, this was a toughie because similar to you, I did struggle with some of those songs early on, but I think again because of Angel's Advocate, it helped me see the potential of some of the songs in there. And the interesting one with this, unlike maybe Charm Bracelet, which had a couple of songs I really liked, mostly then in the middle, and then a couple that I was like, oh, not so much. Yeah, this one was almost a 50-50 split. Yeah. So I've got Obsessed, Standing O, Bet You Gone No, Up Out My Face. Like, these are the songs, like Languishing, that have really set out for me. And then, the 4 in a row that we've talked about. Yeah. And even more than just Friends is somewhere in the middle for me. I Want to Know What Love is, it's fine, but it didn't end very well. Like,
it's not a great, when, I hate to say this, but when Tina Arena has done a better version of a cover than Mariah, it's not a good place to be.
I didn't know she had done it. I have to go listen to it.
Oh, you should release it as a single, mate.
Is it in French?
It's not in French. It was
Remember how she kept telling us how important she is in France?
I thought that, but I have discovered recently that she's got the French equivalent of a knighthood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think she was a big deal in France.
Well, I'm French and I haven't heard of it. That's not true. Anyway, but I went to France once and she was there.
I've got an Italian surname. You got a French surname.
Yeah.
Neither of us have anything to do with either of those countries.
No. But I was in France and I didn't see anything about Tina Arena. So if I just walk up to her one day and be like, prove it.
You didn't go to see her at Le Westfield?
I'll have to. Yeah, I'll have to. But yeah, for this album, the other thing is, there's a lot of interludes that just didn't feel necessary. I think it was almost trying to glue or bridge together songs that maybe weren't meant to be. Yeah. So there was a couple that I was like, oh, yeah, that's fine, but I don't really need it because the song itself was decent. So yeah, I didn't really need it. So yeah, I was sort of 50-50 with this one, which is why it was just that little bit higher, because the songs like Standing O, I just go, oh, that's such a good song. Like,
it is amazing. It's an amazing song. And that's one where the lyrics and the musicality really hook up. Like, it really kind of fits.
And just, I've been really enjoying Up Out My Face as well. Like, the when I break lyrics are some of her best.
I could go on about that for days, even though that was it was my least favorite album. Like, I think her lyrics are incredible. Yeah.
So it was fun, and it was so that's my number 12, and that brings us to your number. Legs 11, Rhonda Birchmore.
Oh,
Rhonda's here.
Now, this is going to be controversial because I had to listen to these two albums near each other because I mixed them all up so I would, because otherwise I'd just load the whole thing up with all the ones from the start. And while I enjoy a lot of this album, I think I had more, I think it just, I think that one of the problems with a lot of the later albums for me is that I don't have the kind of childlike excitement, like the memories of listening to them as a teenager or like in my early 20s when I was like, oh my God, this is the best album that's ever been made, even if it's a little bit crap in places. So I don't have like that kind of nostalgia built in for
the
more
nostalgia.
Just a nostalgia. So controversially, number 11 is E = MC squared.
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
You could smell it, couldn't you? As I know it's your favorite.
All right, tell me all of your wrong opinions.
Look, it's not like I like all the songs, and like when it came down to it, it was just realistically, it was as I was going through the albums and it just kept getting pushed further down.
Sure.
I was like, I love this album, but oh no, I think I like that one more for this reason.
Yes,
and I think I like that one more for this reason. And it just kept falling. I think this is going to be my problem for the rest of this, is I'm just going to say, I really love this album. I don't, there's nothing I kind of hate about it. I think partly the problem is it's trying too hard to be emancipation. I mean, even in the name, it's E equals MC squared was meant to be emancipation of Me Too, even though it came out like 4 million years later. It's, when it doesn't hit the highs of emancipation, it's, it's a bunch of really solid songs. And again, I think trying to be hits. And,
hits and shirts.
Hits and shirts. And there were already a lot of hits on the last album. So, and all the songs are great. Like there's nothing that I really like. It's just, I can say incredible things probably about the top 10, but here at number 11, it's just, it's also a Mariah Carey album. Is
That's
the
why they're
worst
all the
thing
best.
I can say about it. Like I love it, and if I talk about it too much, I'm going to move it back up the list.
Like it's actually plus 11.
But it's like the only reason it's here, because I absolutely adore it, is because the album that I've put at number 10 has a lot. Like, it was just one of these moments where I just went, this one, I just have a lot of feeling for that album, and it pushed it up a little bit, even though it's probably not as good an album.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of happened with me in a lot of this as well.
Yeah.
And even some that maybe scored higher, I've put lower than others. And so don't worry, I get it. Which brings us to my number 11.
What's your number 11?
It is Rainbow. Now, this was an interesting one because it actually scored a bit higher than maybe the next couple on the list.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of a similar thing to what you said, where the highs just aren't maybe as high as some of the other albums for me.
Yeah.
And I think the problem in this album is actually more in the lows.
Yes.
A song like Did I Do That just does not feel a good enough quality for Mariah. And it's not even the parts that you think would be annoying. That didn't bother me, the sample and or the feature. It's just overall, I was like, what is this doing on a Mariah? Did someone put this random girl group song, like B, C list girl group song on a Mariah Carey album by mistake? Thank God I Found You. I think at the time I didn't mind it, but
let's say realistically, she, at this time for this album, she would have rejected that terrible J-Lo song that we hated.
Oh, Feeling So Good, yes.
Yeah. So if that's what she's rejecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she maybe should have rejected Did I Do That? Thank God I Found You. And even Ex-Girlfriend only got a little bit of a reprieve from the skip bin because it's so catchy.
Because we kept singing
still it. But it still doesn't feel like a Mariah Carey level song. And the other ones, Against All Odds, it's fine. After Tonight, when Mariah's having a battle with herself, fine, didn't mind it.
Yeah.
But I liked, like Heartbreaker Remix, and the Rainbow Interlude, and then Petals, Heartbreaker, and Infinity. And Can't Take That Away are all infinities. So it's got some infinities, but it's still got a couple of skips. And I think that's why it just didn't quite work for me. But what I do appreciate about it is it's a decent length. Like, it didn't feel overly difficult to listen to.
It's girthy.
It's got, but that's probably the problem. The length is fine. The girth just isn't giving quite as much as it could.
It's not enough girth.
And I even remember at the time, like, seeing the front cover, and I didn't understand that she's actually in front of a wall. But if you don't know that, it looks like there's mistakes. Like, it looks like there's mistakes in the photoshopping. Oh, right. That someone's accidentally left some squares in there or something.
She's just been standing there and getting sprayed.
Yeah. And I remember the first time I saw it in person, whoever had printed it, it was sort of flimsy paper. And so it just didn't feel like it had as much love as maybe a couple of the prior albums, which
it wouldn't have. Like, it was...
knowing what we know now.
Knowing what we know now.
Let's just pop out an album.
What was going on with Sony. They're like, we've got J-Lo now. We don't need her.
Yeah. But, Petals we love, and can't take that away. I said at the time that I hadn't had my moment with it, but I knew it was good, and I've had my moment with it now. So it's actually way out there for me now. So still some great highlights, just not total full album mode yet.
Oh, so that is your number 11. Well,
yes.
I think we should head home and do the entire top 10 next episode. Okay. Let's not get into the top 10 yet.
Can you handle it? Can you handle it?
I can.
It's actually going to be so controversial, I feel.
It's going to be really controversial. I can smell it from here.
You won't because of copyright. That's a no.
All right, we are almost home. And I'm going to make some things happen. Are you ready?
Oh, make it happen. Make it happen.
So I'm doing, I don't perform anymore. It's like, I used to be a stand-up comedian for 22 years, talked a lot. Don't do gigs anymore because just couldn't be bothered. No, for various reasons. Anyway, I'm doing a one-off gig in Adelaide. I know, of all places. So if you are in Adelaide, I'll be appearing at the Rhino Room for the Big Squid special recording that's going on in September. So, yeah, head to the Rhino Room or head to the Big Squid page on the internet, Justin Hamilton's Big Squid podcast, and grab your tickets for that if you want to see me talk out loud in public.
How did you get roped into this?
Oh, it's a podcast. I love doing a podcast. I can't say no to a podcast.
It's true. That's why we have 97.
It's Justin's birthday, so, I said I would go. Okay. So, yes, I'll be in Adelaide September 16, I think the gig is. So, please come on down. But, yeah, I don't normally do gigs. It feels weird.
Yeah. Oh, my God, what's happening?
I know. If we were doing this podcast 10 years ago, I'd be like, and I'll be here and there. And blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be able to record because I'd be at a gig.
Yeah. Or a beat, one of the two.
Hey, what I do on the way home from the gig is my business. And the 7 other people I meet there.
Yes, and the doctor at the clinic.
So, yes, next week we will be back with the top 10 in our Mariah Carey album countdown. And I'm like, this podcast may not be going anymore after we get to number 1. We may have had a fight.
Oh, my God. I love that you're thinking about this and I'm looking at my top 10 going, oh, no, you're going to cancel me.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. All right, we'll see you next week for more top 10. Right. Bye, Emily.
Bye.